Hello. In this presentation, we will discuss the sternocleidomastoid. The sternocleidomastoid is a relatively large cervical muscle that runs across the neck. It takes its origin by two heads. The sternal head arises from the upper part of the anterior surface of the manubrium of the sternum, and the clavicular head arises from the superior surface of the medial one third of clavicle. It inserts onto the lateral surface of the mastoid process and the lateral half of the superior nuchal line. So the name itself is self-explanatory. The origin is from the sternum and the clavicle, and the insertion is onto the mastoid. So on a lateral view, you can clearly appreciate its oblique course. So as we saw in the intro video also, in the upper part of the neck that is just below the skull, it is a more posterior structure, and in the lower end of the neck, it is a more anterior structure. So let's see how the sternocleidomastoid looks on the CT scan. So as we discussed, it inserts onto the mastoid. So this is the mastoid process. You can appreciate the mastoid air cells inside. So we are scrolling downwards. So as you go down, you will see the muscle becoming more prominent. So this here is the sternocleidomastoid. You can appreciate it on both sides. Now it starts to become much more prominent. So this is the muscle on the left side, and this is the muscle on the right side. Again, becomes more prominent as we scroll down. So this is the muscle on the left side, and this is the muscle on the right side. So this is the sternocleidomastoid on the left. This is the sternocleidomastoid on the right side. You can see there are a lot of tiny nodes that are deep to the sternocleidomastoid. So the sternocleidomastoid is one of the most important muscle in neck nodal contouring. So it is absolutely important that you identify it because it forms the lateral boundary of your level 2, level 3, and your level 4. So that means when you are contouring the level 2, 3, and 4, you restrict yourself to the medial border of the sternocleidomastoid. So you don't go into the sternocleidomastoid, you just contour this fatty space that lies medial to the sternocleidomastoid. So this space is your level 2, 3, and 4. That depends on what level you are at. So currently we are at the level of level 2 because you can see the hyoid bone here. Below the hyoid bone is your level 3. So this level that is deep to the sternocleidomastoid is your level 2 in this case. So it's also important because the posterior border again forms the posterior limit of your level 2 and 3 and 4. So behind that is your level 5. We'll again discuss this in more detail when we discuss nodal levels. So this is very important. Even the level 3 and level 4, the anterior border is also limited by the anterior border of the sternocleidomastoid. So it is very important to identify this. A lot of times I have seen residents, everybody can identify the sternocleidomastoid usually, and they know where the posterior border is. But most of the time residents usually under contour or over contour, they go beyond the sternocleidomastoid, or they stop much before the posterior border. So it's a very easy muscle to identify, and its borders are also very clearly visible. So yeah, we'll again discuss this in more detail when we discuss neck nodal contouring. Yeah. So this is the sternocleidomastoid. This is on the left side, and this is on the right side. Also try and identify the platysma. This is the platysma. So this is another patient. So here we are starting at the origin. So you can see that there are two parts that arise, one from the sternum and one from the clavicle. You can't see it right now, but as you slowly go cranially, you can start to identify the muscle. So this here is the sternal head, and you will soon see the clavicular head. So here is the clavicular head. So these are the two heads of the sternocleidomastoid, and as you scroll cranially, you will see that this join together. So this is the medial limit of the muscle, and this is the lateral limit. So all the way from here to here is the sternocleidomastoid, and deep to it is your level 2, 3, and 4. On the opposite side, you can't really appreciate it because there's a huge node that's infiltrating into the sternocleidomastoid. So you can't really make out. You can, though you can make out the posterior border, but anteriorly you can't really make the muscle, make out the muscle. So I'm continuing to scroll cranially. So this is the sternocleidomastoid. We'll later see that this forms the anterior and the posterior border of your level 2, 3, and 4, and posterior to it will be your level 5. So a pretty easy muscle to identify, and its borders are also very clearly visible. Just make sure you are careful enough to, just limit yourself by the posterior and the anterior border, and not over or under contour. So you can see these nodes that are deep to the muscle. This patient has very heavy nodal burden, so it's easy to identify where the nodes usually are. So they are deep to the muscles. So I'm continuing to scroll cranially. And again, as we saw with the previous patient, it becomes less prominent now and inserts onto the mastoid. So now we can't see it anymore. Thank you.